Hello, VC. Whack-A-Mole, I believe number 27. Got Freedom Blues, a CD I've had for many years, playing in the background. It's kind of a South Africa fusion of jazz artists and other artists. Anyway, you may or may not hear that, but Whack-A-Mole, I pick 5, unless I'm in the mood for more albums, random albums. I grab them from behind, and that sounds bad. I pull them off the shelf, I should probably say, to be more appropriate. Oh, it's Monday morning, and I had a just a little brief thing. I do a lot of these, and you know I do a lot of videos, but I work at home, and my work goes for starts and stops. So I was up at 6 a.m. I had to get this package finished that I've worked on the weekend, this bid proposal for a photography campaign for one of my photographers, and we had to get it out early with a treatment. It's basically a photographer's visualization, almost like a mood board, if you know what a mood board is, that brings ideas from her images, and you have to kind of write out and pontificate all these kind of like visions of how you're going to do an ad campaign. You fucking need visions in advertising. And then, you know, break it down, have 2 bids, 2 estimates for different, whether you're going to do one kind of main image or one section or 3. So they want this, and they want options basically. And you have to go through this whole rigmarole, and we had conference calls yesterday. But what happens for me is, since I'm work at home and I'm not, you know, with all these other people to go and chat with occasionally, which in some ways is better because you get things done. And I don't sit around in my pajamas hanging around at home, you know, smoking a cigar, drinking coffee all day. But I get up early, I do those because I have to send them to, in this case, I had to send it to the Midwest, the proposal, so I had to have it to them before their lunchtime. And I'm telling this story because what the fuck, it's a whack-a-mole, and I can share why I do the things I do. And it may even not answer why I do the things I do, but what happens is I get all this stuff done, and instead of just jumping right in, I need to walk around. I come into my record library occasionally. I sit on the deck sometimes when it's nice. Obviously, you've seen my office where my CDs and musical instruments are on my desk. It's right on the other side of this wall. But doing these, I get these ideas. I don't know if any of you get like this, but at night I'm in bed or in the morning, and I think of concepts. I have a whole list of concepts I want to make videos on. Some are thematic of a specific artist or a genre or a topic, and then sometimes I love going and considering ideas that are really out there and then pulling myself back a little bit, because I'd rather do something kind of a little different when possible. I know I don't do a lot of different things, but I try sometimes. And in fact, I had an email exchange last night with one of my biggest fans, hint, hint, my number 1 fan, in fact, of an idea that I've been having, and I might do it towards the end of the year. I'm not sure if it's gonna, if it'll be controversial. It won't be controversial. It depends how you apply it and how you put it together. But I think it could be fun and funny and informative. And hey, it's my channel, so I can do the fuck whatever I want, right? I can put a warning sign like one of my earlier videos this year. Which I only got a couple of negative responses on because it wasn't really specifically music-based. Anyway, I digress. So Whack-A-Mole, I'm going to pick 5 albums from my collections and talk about them. So, here we go. Three, 4, 5. Mazzy's Whack-A-Mole. 5 random albums. Okay, number 1. You all know Al Cooper. Well, Al Cooper produced a band from San Francisco called The Tubes, A&M Records, 1975 or 6, I believe. I knew about this band a lot because they were very theatrical. This is a fantastic album. To me, it's a perfect album. And they did some other stuff, but they were, in a way, like an art collective. I think they're out of the Southwest originally. Some of them was in New Mexico or Arizona, and they were called a band. They were called the Beans, and they moved to the Bay Area. Bill Spooner was a great guitar player. Roger Steen was a guitar player. Fee Waybill, the lead singer. Vince Welnick. Sad about Vince Welnick. He was one of their keyboard players, and later, way after the Tubes split up, he had joined the Grateful Dead. After a great piano player, I think he had some personal and financial issues and things, but he joined the Grateful Dead. Was going to be the new keyboard player with the Grateful Dead, and of course, within a year, Jerry Garcia dies. Vince eventually committed suicide, which was kind of tragic, but there's some other issues, not just because, you know, your Grateful Dead band breaks up and you take the name literally, so I don't think that's what happened, but I'm digressing again. A&M Records, Al Cooper produced it. What Do You Want From Life? Great song. They had a great visual show. There was a club in San Francisco called Bimbo's. It's still there. Bimbo's 365 Club in North Beach, only a few blocks up from where Tower Records was in Columbus and Bay. And they held residency there for about 10 days, I think. Maybe it was a whole month. Visual shows. They had, Fee Waybill had a character called Quaalude. What Do You Want From Life? Mondo Bondage. Space Baby. White Punks on Dope. That's probably the song that you know from this album. This is a great sounding record and just a great record. It's not just straight rock and roll. It's not prog. It's not punk. But it's really a hybrid of a lot of things and very catchy songs. Michael Cotton was also in the band, one of their synthesizer players, who's an artist who, him and the drummer Prairie Prince, who Prairie Prince played a lot of other Bay Area artists after that. Prairie Prince and Michael Cotton, I believe, did a lot of their artwork and design. And at some point, there's a documentary. I was getting emails for years because the record factory that I worked for, that chain, had a lot of support for the Tubes and vice versa, and they did some work, artistic work. And we used to play softball against these guys. Fee Waybill and Bill Spooner used to play softball with the record store teams. I think Tower Records had a team, and the Record Factory, and some of the band members, like and Huey Lewis and that whole thing. We're talking 70s. So anyway, love this record, and I think it still holds up, and it's just a fun record to turn up. Synthesizer, rock and roll. So I'd say if you see it, pick it up. But White Punks on Dope, that alone. Anyway, sticking with the Bay Area. Oh, in fact, since I have this, I gotta grab one more thing. Okay. Biz Scaggs. You know, most of you, there's no two sides of Biz Scaggs. It's either the big Silk Degrees album, that was his monster seller, which is blue-eyed soul, funk, a little disco-y. Fun record, great record. Some people think it's dated, but I don't even think it's near his best albums. His first album was on Atlantic Records, produced by Jan Wenner of a Rolling Stone, and that's the one with the great song "Loan Me a Dime" with Greg Allman on it, and it's great. But then he's signed to Columbia, did about 5 records before he hit, and they're all really good blues, soul. Now, Slowdancer. This album came out. I remember when this album came out, I hated the cover, but it's a Annie Leibovitz photograph. Some people like it, but to me, this is the better of the two. Better for me than Silk Degrees. It's Blue-Eyed Soul, produced by Johnny Bristol, so it's got a Philly kind of, I think that's the Philly sound he did. But yeah, produced by Johnny Bristol, and it's sort of got a good funk, but not that kind of typical 70s funk. There's a slickness to it, but in the Philly sound, which is really, really good. And he does like Alan Toussaint's I Got Your Number, I think, is on here. I Got Your Number. Slowdancer is beautiful. Angel Lady. So it's got a great rhythm. Pain of Love, some good blue-eyed soul ballads. But Biz Scaggs, you may or may not know, was the original member, came from Texas, played with the Steve Miller Blues Band, who became the Steve Miller Band. It was on their first 2 albums on Capitol. And to me, some of his songs on those 2 albums, Baby's Calling Me Home, on the first Steve Miller Children of the Future album. He was on, Sailor album, on the Quicksilver Girl. Not that song, but anyway. He left after those 2, which is too bad, but hey, it's Steve Miller's band. He did his own thing. But we used to see him around San Francisco all the time. He still lives there. He was a staple there. But what's interesting, after Soap Degrees became the big hit it was, he did the first of any artist I knew. It was called A Black Tie Only Night at the Paramount Theater in Oakland, which is a gorgeous movie theater. Not movie theater, but live performance space. Very deco, ornate, gorgeous space. And Biz Scaggs and band from Soap Degrees, and everyone was supposed to wear black tie, tuxes, tuxedo. This was great in 1974. Everyone dressing up and going to see a rock show. It was great. It was wonderful. Bill Graham produced it. But this was the poster for the show, and I went to it with my girlfriend at the time. And right since Soap Degrees became so big after this show, they swapped out. They took this cover away and replaced it with this. So this is the same album. Is this the rare cover? I don't know. I see it around a lot. I actually picked one up and I kept it sealed, and it has my Record Factory $4.98 price tag on it still. This is my sealed copy, but this is a great record. But a little more ornate in terms of where he was at the time. But, Biz Scaggs didn't get a lot of love. People kind of only think of Soap Degrees and Lido Shuffle and all that. But his blues records and band that he did, he had a band, Moments album. Anyway, again, there's 5 albums for Columbia. I'm not going to name them all right now. Wow, okay. It looks like I picked 3 of the picks are actually Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area bands. This is an unusual record. Sopwith Camel, the Miraculous Hump Returns from the Moon. Now, those of you who don't know Sopwith Camel probably at least know one of their songs. They had a hit on their first album. They had a single. Their album really wasn't a big hit, but the single is huge, called Hello, Hello. S. Da 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 da. Ba da ba da ba. This is their first album, Hello, Hello. Hello, hello, I like your style. Won't you have some of my tangerine? Very kind of, it wasn't psychedelic, really. It wasn't rock and roll. Little vaudeville, little showy tunes, almost like kind of the Your Mother Should Know, Beatles, the Paul McCartney when he does kind of the oldies, Honey Pie and all that kind of stuff. But they were a Bay Area band. Again, people don't really realize that. You never hear their name, but there was some psychedelic stuff on this album too. Cellophane Woman, but again, sort of campy in a way, but good campy. And the album was produced by Eric Johnson, who was the producer of all the hit Lovin' Spoonful records, and later in the 80s, the 80s, he produced Chris Isaak, first 4 or 5 albums. So Eric Jacobson, but really good record. But anyway, this is a number of years. This didn't come out till 1973 on Warner Brothers, and it was kind of a reformation. And it's almost all the same. I think it's all the same band. Maybe 4 of the 5 people are in it of the original members. So I didn't really. It's Sopwith Camel again. The miraculous. That's a hard word for Mazzy to say. Miraculous Hump Returns from the Moon. Coke, Suede, and Waterbeds got some Bay Area FM radio play. Recorded, let's see, it was recorded at Wally Hyder, which was a great studio in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco on Hyde Street, obviously. Hyde Street Studios, it's now called, I believe. Again, produced by Eric Jacobson and Sopwith Camel. So they went back to the scene of the crime and worked together again. It's a little prog, but light prog, but really a cool record. So I would say if you see this record, The Miraculous Return of the Hump, grab it. Sopwith Camel. Okay. The Move. This is The Move with Bev Bevan, Roy Wood, and what's his name? What's the main guy's name? The singer. Come on. You're yelling it out to me. The guy that sang a lot of the leads with Roy Wood. Now, this is The Move. They had a bunch of albums and incarnations, and Jeff Lynne would later join The Move. And then The Move with Roy Wood and Jeff Lynne and Bev Bevan would morph into the Electric Light Orchestra. In fact, the later Move albums and the first EO albums, you could almost, they kind of overlap in a really interesting way. So they kind of have the same feel to it, you know? I mean, you see the cellos coming in, and if you don't know that, Roy Wood and Jeff Lynne, their whole concept for ELO after The Move was adding cellos, adding sort of an orchestral without doing the big full orchestra like in, you know, Moody Blues, Days of Future Past. They wanted it to be an integral part of the band. Basically, they said they wanted to have a band that kind of led off from where the Beatles, where they were doing Strawberry Fields and I'm the Walrus. Those are sort of the focal points to what ELO, the initial blueprint of the band after The Move. But Shazam on A&M Records, great record. Hello Susie, Roy Wood song, Beautiful Daughter, a gorgeous song, very much in the realm of Eleanor Rigby, with a very kind of cello string quartet arrangement. Lovely song. Cherry Blossom Clinic Revisit is a 7-minute plus epic. This is a great record. A lot of classical overtones here, some sort of Beethoven thrown in. Fields of People and Don't Make My Baby Blue and The Last Thing in My Mind. Side 2 are 3 covers, and each one is 6 minutes, 7.5 minutes, and 10 minutes. And it's a perfect cover, side 2. The Move makes those songs theirs. Last Thing in My Mind is a Tom Paxton song, who was a folk singer, still alive. Don't Make My Baby Blue, Man and Weil, great Brill building songwriters. And Fields of People, Day and Pearson. That's a great version on here too. But anyway, Roy Wood, Carl, what's his name? Carl, whatever. He's the guy who was saying, I'm blanking his name. Carl, come on, help me now. And then Bev Bevan, who was the drummer with Roy initially, and Jeff Lynne in the Electric Light Orchestra. But people like different aspects of The Move. There's a heavier sound. There's a song called Brontosaurus they did that had almost like a heavy metal thing, but really good. But I would say if you like good heavy rock and roll, but with some melody involved, The Move are a great band. And this in particular, I think a lot of you who don't know it, I mean, I would go with this one first out of any Move album. I know a lot of the diehards like some of the earlier ones more so. In fact, we can play here. We're friends, right? Of course, I can't find it now. The move. Oh well. You know, sometimes it's hard to figure out the way you alphabetized your records. Okay, lastly, Whack-A-Mole. Okay, Money, The Flying Lizards. This is an EP, or just 12-inch single. I don't have the whole album of them. They were a new wave band. What is it, 79 or 80? This came out from Germany. I was just discussing with the vinyl, not vinyl rundown. The guy's building the house, Jim. Anyway, he said something about on a video last night about new wave and why do we call music new wave. And I was thinking, I was kind of agreeing with him because to me, and I said this as a response to him, to me, the New Wave will always be the French New Wave cinema. You know, Francois Truffaut, 400 Blows and Beyond, and Louis Malle, and all that, those kind of young filmmakers of the late 50s, early 60s in France. And that's where the whole French New Wave term came from. So, New Wave bands, I don't know, but this was on Virgin. Almost like a quirky novelty version of the song Money. And you've heard this, it's probably been on movies and maybe even commercials. The best things in life are free, but you can get it from the Birds and Bees. It's the woman singing with electronic artifact on Virgin, the Flying Lizards. Backed with a cover of Summertime Blues. So, this is my, 1979. That was close. The New Wave German phenomena, Flying Lizards, became kind of a big hit too, in Europe and in America. At least the FM radio stations played it here, so because of the novelty of the song. And as Mazzy always likes to, stick in a Beatle connection there. We all know that John Lennon and the Beatles sang a great version of Money too. So that's Whack-A-Mole for today. And thanks for watching, and make comments. And I really appreciate all the support and everything. And Mazzy loves you. Thanks.